Ah yes, the KC Cup. Once again, time for all the tryhards, whales, game exploiters, free-to-play and pay-to-lose players to jump into the event together. Not to hold hands and sing Kumbaya, of course, but rather completely annihilate one another's morales, hopes, dreams, time and energy spent at the strategically thought-provoking children's virtual card game. Be it finding the best McDonald's Wi-Fi in the locale, or bunkering down for the weekend with energy drinks, hopefully healthy snacks, and at Ethernet connection. 'Tis the season to be grinding. Sure, some folks do it for the gems, but we're talking about stage 2 of the KC Cup, where the only prize truly worthwhile is placing first globally and receiving that invitation to the World Championships of Yu-Gi-Oh! After partaking in 3 KC Cups prior to this, reaching top 500 regionally in the last 2, I felt it was time for me to attempt a serious shot at stage 2 of the event as well. Was saving gems for a while, summing up to 18,000 and spending them all towards 6 Samurai in the Warriors Unite box, with another video on the channel for the box opening if you'd like to check it out. This was the deck that was used to play the entire event, with 799 games played, 50 hours streamed on Twitch, and a max of 59,000 duel points reached. This was my experience. Going into this KC Cup, I had the mindset of giving it my all, making sure I had the weekend free to focus on it with the aim of nothing less than my best potential and spend as much time as possible on the event. While I didn't expect to place first place globally, that was the thought I had in mind, as the quote that stuck with me would be, if you're going to dream, dream big. Kicking off the event, I was up for the beginning of stage 2, starting about an hour in at around 2 AM. Things were going in an upwards progression for the most part, playing a number of other 6 Samurai, AGs, Kawaki, Amazonas, Yubel, and Hazes primarily. I reached 10,000 duel points within the first 2 hours, 20k by the 6-hour mark, 30,000 duel points by 11 hours, and 40k at the 17 to 18-hour mark. It was during the later hours into the stream that some stagnation took place, just remaining within the same duel point range of 30 to 40,000. The build I was using was quite consistent, rarely bricking, but also quite situational, depending on the matchup, with the Amazonas burn decks causing the most issues, and also preferring to go first for the most part with the 6 Samurai. This was of course to set up the board to ideally have at least a Shien and a Nishi first turn. While not impossible to get past, that setup does make it difficult for a number of decks. Saw some Cypher Soldiers and Karakuri Ninjas as well at times, but for the most part were a fairly easy read, being able to get into Armadas to bypass those set cards. Decided at the 25th hour of the first stream it was time to get some rest and try again with a clear mind, which is what happened, ending the first day of the event 6th place regionally with around 40,000 duel points. At this point I crashed for about 11 hours, which was longer than I'd wanted to sleep. Got up, ready, and jumped back on. Definitely did make a difference getting that rest in, as the climb initially during the second day kept progressing upwards. While slow, as there was some bouncing of the duel points going back and forth. It was this day I reached up to 59,000, at a time placing second in North America. When reaching 59k, I still wasn't thinking much of the points or rank, still wanting to continue pushing and not stop until the end of the KC Cup, which when looking back at wasn't wrong, but should have had some additional barriers and milestones in mind, as at this point the stall and burn Amazonas decks began making much more of an appearance, with games up to 5+ in a row all being Weevil or Odeon, running Mithra, Lava Golems, Parasites, Floodgates, Wall of Disruptions, and of course the Amazonas, basically a visual representation of what Cancer would look like if it was a deck in a card game. While I can understand the hate 6 Sams get, I'd still respectively lose to a mirror match OTK or Ancient Gears, even Kawaki's, as opposed to that toxicity any day. And it's one thing to play a competitive event, matching up against the same decks over and over again, but what little fun there was in the event itself got completely wiped out with Weevil, parasites in the lot. Though it was possible to counter at times in certain situations, primarily getting into armadas and ending the game before Queen comes out. That deck was by far the worst matchup against Exam, not only for the cancerous facts, but also a ridiculous waste of time for everyone involved, with the games going into the 10s and 20s of turns. Would at least be able to get in 2 respectable duels within that time. It was at the 11th hour of the second stream, due to these decks and being matched up with them for majority of the remaining KC Cup, that I began stagnating and dipping in the duel points, fluctuating around 50k, then 40, 30, and eventually reaching a low of 20,000 at a point. Yep, that happened, that massive dip. If I could graphically represent the run, it would probably look something like this. I did have Kawaki, perhaps ought to have given them a shot for some time, but ended up sticking with 6am the whole way through. Made some slight edits after the dip, and matching up with the number of Weevils, which did help a bit, replacing the dual wields with 1 treacherous trapple and an enemy controller, getting me back up to about 34,000 points. However, it still unfortunately dipped once again due to them toxic decks. With about 4 hours left in the KC Cup, 25 hours into the second stream, and sitting at 24,000 duel points, it was time to toss in the towel, as reaching 40,000 points, which was a goal to attempt bouncing back to, couldn't be attained with just a few hours left in the event. At the end of it all, I settled at 25,000 duel points, playing a bit more on my own time. I at least didn't do worse than previous KC Cups, now being 3 in a row hitting top 500 NA and being eligible for the regional representative qualifiers. However, it would be a lie if I said I wasn't disappointed in the drop. Definitely a shame there, but it is what it is, and that's all she wrote. So, what to take away from this experience of going all in on the KC Cup? There were a number. For starters, was it worth it? For the KC Cup alone, definitely not. Even if I had walked away with 59,000 points, potentially ending off the KC Cup at 9th place regionally, the amount of time and energy spent for a virtual icon, a few ultra rare and super rare tickets, along with bragging rights of beating 12-year-olds and tryhards at a children's card game, the trade-off didn't seem all too worth it. Work smart, not hard, as some say, which just means I ought to get good and have had a better win-loss ratio. And by all accounts, I still do consider myself a pleb, and do own up to the misplays I made, as the derp counter did progress during the run. However, what I was matching up against, who the coin tosses, along with other things left to chance, just couldn't always end up in my favor, and to an extent was out of my hands. On a serial note, speaking for those that would give it their all and reach a solid point only to fall back down a major portion of what progress was made, as would happen in my case, this would be along the lines of devastating, complete waste of time, and have major negative impacts towards the health both physically and mentally. While I did take a few breaks during the run, getting up to stretch, eat, and also sleep in between the 2 streams, I can completely understand now how it's possible for people to die playing video games, or just by sitting at a computer for unhealthy periods of time. This was of course my own risk and experience to take, and I did so willingly with all the repercussions in mind. Yet still poses the question if competitive events ought to be designed as so, or if there's a better way to format it. In the KC Cup's current format, milestones of barriers ought to have been set, be it during times of stagnation or the second stream's drop. I either should have taken a break for a solid portion, be it minutes or hours, or have just called it quits during the drop, perhaps maintaining a top 100 regional position. What else came of this were opportunities of joining 2 teams to more competitive Duel Links gameplay, being clan and team wars, both of which I decided to give a shot, and so we'll see how it goes, but I am looking forward to it. There were a few stream snipers, but that's to be expected. though I ought to have set a longer delay as it was only a few seconds, not expecting such a turnout during the stream, which leads me to what I personally found to be the most worthwhile and enjoyable part of the journey, being you folks who tuned in. All the raids and hosts, or meeting new folks by finding my name in the leaderboard in game. It was a lot of fun chatting with you. By far the most meaningful part of the experience, and I thank each and every one of you for partaking in it with me. With that said, I still don't consider myself a competitive gamer, and would seriously suggest everyone not to do what I did with 50 hours of gameplay. So then why did I do it? I'd say the same reason anyone attempts anything difficult: to learn and push oneself's limits and potentials, gain the knowledge and experience, then keep progressing from where you finished. I hope this may have been of some benefit to you as well, possibly giving you the same insight I got out of it without putting yourself through what I did, or at the least some form of entertainment. If you have any questions for me regarding this event and my experience, feel free to ask in the comments below, and also share your thoughts in the lot too. How did you do in the KC Cup? Did you partake? And what were your goals, if willing to share? Any suggestions on what you might change in the rules of the KC Cup, different format perhaps? But I appreciate all of you tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.